Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know we love digging into thought-provoking stuff here, and this one is no exception. Our friends over at the Your Higher Self YouTube channel sent over their latest video, and get this, it's their most watched video for October.
What's so interesting about this is how Your Higher Self uses our deep dives to give his audience a 1-2 punch of insight. First, they get that immediate hit of visual inspiration from the video, and then they swing over here to really unpack the core message with us.
I love that. It's like we're all on this journey together, huh? So this video, it's titled Feeling Stuck, The Power of Conscious Relaxation. Just being tactic. Catchy, right?
It really is, and you know what? Don't let that title fool you. This one goes deep.
It really does. It dives right into this struggle so many of us face. You know that feeling when you know you need to relax, but your mind just won't quit?
Totally. It's like we're hardwired for overdrive these days, and the video even calls out how this mental chatter can actually be a roadblock to spiritual growth. Kind of ironic when you think about it. It's so true. He really encourages viewers to pay attention to the excuses that pop up when we try to relax. What are those thoughts trying to tell us? What are we so afraid of confronting?
That's where things get really interesting. He suggests we're conditioned to seek fulfillment outside ourselves. We're constantly chasing acceptance, love, validation, everything but UT ourselves. He makes a really compelling case that this outward focus is actually what's keeping us stuck.
Because what we're searching for is already within us. Is that what he's saying?
That's the heart of his message. He says we are not our minds. We're not our thoughts. That realization, recognizing ourselves as something beyond the mental chatter, he presents that as a key to true relaxation and even spiritual liberation.
That's a powerful thought. But how do we even begin to separate ourselves from our thoughts? He talks about shifting our focus from the mind to our awareness. What is that exactly? He describes it as that place of pure consciousness that exists beyond all those thoughts swirling around in our heads. Like, imagine you're on a train just watching the scenery go by. You're not driving the train, choosing the route, you're just observing. He's saying that's what we need to do with our thoughts, become the observer, not get swept away by them.
He even compares it to dreaming. You know how when you're in a dream, it feels so real, but then you wake up and it was all in your head?
Yeah.
He suggests our waking lives can be like that too. We get so caught up in our mental dramas that we miss the peace that's already available if we could just learn to detach.
And let me tell you, he's very upfront about the fact that detaching from those thoughts, especially the ones rooted in fear and discomfort, is much easier said than done.
It does seem counterintuitive, right? Like when we feel anxious or afraid, our instinct is to make those feelings go away, distract ourselves, anything but feel them.
Exactly.
But it sounds like he's saying that those feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing our emotions. It's more about changing how we relate to them. Instead of seeing fear and discomfort as enemies, he wants us to see them as messengers. They're trying to tell us something important, and when we try to push them away, we're just silencing those messages.
So what happens when we stop giving those negative thoughts so much power over us?
That's when things start to shift. He calls it relaxing back into awareness. Like, as we let go of the need to control our feelings, they actually start to lose their grip on us. And in that space of non-resistance, that's where we find peace. Real peace.
I'm curious about that word surrender. I feel like that can be kind of a loaded term for some people. He's not talking about giving up, is he?
Not at all. It's actually a very active form of letting go. It's about making a conscious choice to stop fighting against reality, just accepting what is in this moment. He argues that it's our attempts to control things, to make things different than they are, that's the root of a lot of our suffering.
So we create more pain by trying to avoid it.
Yes. When we can learn to relax into the present moment, accept it without judgment, that's when things open up for us. He even says this state of peace, this heaven on earth, it's our natural state. We've just forgotten how to access it.
Makes you wonder why we make things so complicated, right? If this peace is already inside us, why is it so hard to just relax?
He talks about that too. He says most of us haven't been taught how to love you to relax. Not really. I mean, think about it. We live in a culture that values busyness, productivity. We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to do more, be more, have more. It's no wonder we've lost touch with that stillness inside ourselves.
We're praised for being busy, for multitasking, for pushing ourselves to the limit.
Exactly. And because that's so normalized, learning to just be present with ourselves can feel almost like rebellious, you know?
It's like we think we're being lazy or unproductive if we're not constantly striving for something.
Right. And, you know, any discomfort we feel in those moments of stillness, he says that's just temporary. It's a sign that we're breaking free from old patterns and conditioning.
Like flexing a muscle you haven't used in a while. It might be sore at first, but the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly.
And he's honest about the fact that, this isn't always easy. Like really leaning into discomfort. That can bring up some intense stuff.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He actually encourages us to lean into those feelings of fear, that discomfort, instead of running from it.
Which, let's face it, feels kind of counterintuitive, right? When we feel anxious, afraid, our first instinct is to make it go away. Distract ourselves, numb ourselves, anything but actually be with it.
Exactly. But he's suggesting that those feelings, even the really uncomfortable ones, they're not the enemy. They're messengers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like they're trying to tell us something, And when we try to suppress those feelings, push them away, it's like we're silencing those messages.
So even negative emotions, they can hold a key to deeper understanding.
In a way, yeah. He's really big on approaching those feelings with a sense of curiosity. Compassion, even. Not judgment or fear.
So we become like emotional archaeologists.
Yeah.
Carefully digging through the layers of our own minds.
I love that analogy. That's exactly it.
It makes me think about how he talks about just observing those sensations, those feelings, without judgment. He says that's what actually helps us release them, is when we stop resisting that they lose their power over us.
You know that saying, what we resist persists?
Totally.
It's like that. He uses the analogy of a pot of boiling water. Try to keep the lid on, that pressure just builds and builds. But if you can find a way to let off some of that steam, it becomes manageable.
Ooh, I like that.
So yeah, it's about facing those fears and discomforts head on rather than trying to bury them. That's how we truly heal. That's how we move forward.
He's not advocating for, toxic positivity, is he?
Yeah.
Pretending everything is fine when it's not.
No. He's very clear that this can be challenging, even painful at times. But he emphasizes that it's in those moments of discomfort when we're most tempted to turn away or numb ourselves, that's where the real growth happens.
It's such a powerful message. And I think it's about finding that balance, between acknowledging that this is hard work, this practice of relaxing into awareness, while also trusting that it's leading us to a more peaceful way of being.
Absolutely. And it's not about never experiencing negative emotions again. Like, we're human, right? We're to feel things. It's more about learning to relate to those emotions in a different way, seeing them as waves that rise and fall instead of this tsunami that's going to drown us.
I love that. So it's like he's saying, hey, this might get bumpy, but trust the process. The peace you're searching for, it's already within you. So listeners, as you go about your day, maybe ask yourself, if my mind is the primary obstacle to my own peace, what's one small step I can take today to create a little more space between myself and my thoughts? What can help you find your way back to that stillness within? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, stay curious.
Until next time, my friends, I ask all people everywhere to plant seeds of love, peace, joy, and oneness. And remember, I love you all. Walk in light.